Welcome to the Deep Dive with Bobby and Michelle, taking a deeper dive into things like books and videos, giving you a view of what's under the surface. Sit back and take the Deep Dive with Bobby and Michelle.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Deep Dive. Now, today we're diving into something pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Despair.
Mm-hmm.
We got a video submission, actually, from a listener named Joefer, who describes himself as cranky old gay guy.
I love that.
I know, right? And he really opens up in this video about his experiences with despair. And I thought, this would be a great opportunity to sort of dig into this topic.
Yeah, and I think what's so interesting about Joe's story is just how real and raw he is about it.
Yeah.
He doesn't sugarcoat anything.
No, he doesn't. It's like you're sitting down and having a conversation with him.
Exactly.
At a coffee shop or something.
Yeah, yeah. And he kicks it off by, defining despair as like the utter lack of hope.
Right.
Which, sounds pretty straightforward, but I think anyone who's ever experienced it knows that it's so much more than that.
Oh, absolutely. There's that weight that comes with it, that feeling of being trapped.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So he takes us through like 3 major periods in his life where he really kind of had to confront despair head on.
Yeah.
And the first one he talks about is this accident he had back in 1994.
Right. And he doesn't hold back. He's like, I was broken in half.
Yeah.
Crippled. I mean, just those words,
Yeah. Intense. It's hard to even imagine what that must have been like.
I can't even fathom that.
And what's really inspiring, though, is that he talks about finding a turning point.
Okay.
Even in that experience.
Yeah.
He mentions Discover Jane Pauley's show, Turning Points.
I remember that show.
Yeah. And he has this realization that, this injury could be the start of something new.
Interesting.
Not a replacement for, what he lost, but like a chance to redirect his life.
It's like when people say when one door closes, another one opens. But how do you see that other door when you're in so much pain?
Exactly, yeah. And that's where this idea of perspective comes in, I think. It's not just about thinking positive. It's about actively choosing to view the situation in a different way.
Like reframing it.
Exactly, yeah. It's a skill, almost. You got to practice it.
Absolutely, yeah. And, Joe's story really shows just how powerful that can be.
Yeah, for sure. But, his journey wasn't just, smooth sailing from there.
Right.
He also opens up about struggling with financial stress.
Oh, yeah.
Which he calls a killer.
I mean, hasn't everyone felt that?
At some point, probably.
A dread.
He describes this cycle of juggling bills and relying on credit cards, which I think a lot of people can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
But what's important here is that he recognizes how that financial instability just feeds into that feeling of despair.
Yeah. It just becomes this looming thing.
A weight, that you can't escape.
He talks about the emotional side of it too.
Right.
It's not just about the numbers, it's about feeling trapped.
Exactly, yeah. So financial stress was one layer of despair for him.
Right.
But then life throws another curveball his way. In 2020, he loses someone very close to him.
Yeah, and this is where his story just gets so much more intense.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, he talks about feeling guilty, wondering if he could have done something to prevent it.
Right.
It's heartbreaking, but also so relatable.
What struck me the most was just the vividness of his grief.
Mm-hmm.
He describes sleepless nights, even seeing the person in his home.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, yeah. When he said that, I got chills.
Yeah. It's like, this wasn't just some abstract grief. It was so real and immediate, even years later.
It's a reminder that grief doesn't just disappear. It can stick around.
Linger, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not always predictable.
So how does he cope with all of this? I mean...
Right. Well, he talks about these small ways that he navigates through it.
Okay.
Like reaching out to friends, going for walks, even talking to the person he lost.
It's like finding those little things that can keep you going.
Yeah, like little lifelines.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I appreciate is that he doesn't pretend to have all the answers.
Right.
He's just sharing what worked for him, you know?
Yeah. Which might resonate with some people and offer, maybe a little bit of hope.
A little glimmer. He finds comfort in the song The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow from Annie.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? It seems so simple.
Yeah.
But it speaks to something deeper, I think.
I think it's that imagery.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about a sunny day.
Yeah.
It was about believing that things would get better.
Yeah, like that hope that things can change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that kind of ties in with Dan Savage's message of it gets better.
Right.
which, while it's often used in the context of coming out, I think it has a universal message.
Yeah, for sure. It's that reminder that things can improve.
Yeah, no matter how tough things are right now.
But sometimes just believing things will get better isn't enough, right?
You're absolutely right.
Right.
Sometimes we need more practical tools.
Yeah, like what can you actually do?
Well, Joe talks about limiting exposure to negativity.
Okay.
Like turning off the news.
But what about people who can't escape negativity, like in their jobs or personal lives?
That's a great point. It highlights the importance of finding other ways to cultivate positivity.
Okay.
Joe talks about focusing on small, positive things.
Like what?
Like appreciating nature or engaging in creative pursuits. Like art.
So finding those little moments of joy.
Exactly. Even amidst the chaos.
Intentionally shifting your focus.
Yeah. And sometimes even that's not enough.
Right.
That's why Joe also stresses the importance of seeking professional help when needed.
Yeah, he's really open about his own experience with therapy, which is so refreshing to hear.
Yeah. It's a sign of strength, not weakness.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember those resources are out there.
Yeah. Therapy support groups. Nobody should have to suffer alone.
What I find interesting is how Joe's experiences with despair led to personal growth.
Yeah. He doesn't shy away from the pain, but he acknowledges that it shaped him.
It's like going through those tough times made him stronger.
He talks about embracing a live and let live philosophy.
Becoming less judgmental, more understand.
Yeah. It's like those dark moments can actually lead to positive change.
That's a powerful message.
Yeah. And throughout it all, Joe emphasizes hope.
Yeah.
He says things will change.
There will be high points.
Moments of joy.
Even if they seem small.
He talks about savoring those small joys.
Like what kind of things?
The beauty of a flower, the smell of rain, a moment of connection with someone you love.
It's about noticing those little things.
Yeah, and letting them nourish you.
But he also acknowledges that sometimes we need help to process those difficult emotions.
Right. It's not about ignoring the negative. It's about facing it head on.
Oh, with compassion.
Yeah, and a willingness to seek support.
It's funny because Joe's message seems even more relevant now.
Oh, totally.
With like the constant negativity on social media and, 24/7 news.
Yeah, it's so easy to get sucked into that.
You just feel overwhelmed.
But Joe's story is like a reminder that we have a choice.
Right.
We can step away.
Turn it off.
Focus on what really matters.
Be more intentional about what we let into our minds.
Exactly.
It's not just about overcoming these challenges. It's also about finding meaning in them.
Right. Joe talks about how his experiences shaped him.
Made him more empathetic.
More understanding.
That's pretty amazing when you think about it.
Yeah. Like our struggles can actually make us better people.
And throughout it all, there's this thread of hope in Joe's story.
Absolutely. He really emphasizes that no matter how low you feel, things will change.
There will be good times again.
Yeah, high points. Moments of joy.
Even if they're small?
Exactly. He talks about savoring those small joys.
It's like finding those little glimmers of light.
And holding on to them.
Letting them lift you up.
And ultimately, I think that's what Joe's story is all about. It's about the human spirit's ability to find hope.
Even in the darkest of times.
Even when it feels impossible.
So to wrap up our deep dive into Joe's experience with despair.
I think what we can take away from this is that despair is a universal human experience.
We've all been there.
But it doesn't have to define us.
It can be a chance to grow.
To become more resilient.
To understand ourselves and the world a little better.
So before we go, we want to leave you with this thought.
What strategies have you used to cope with despair?
What lessons have you learned?
And how can Joe's story inspire you to face your challenges with more hope? Remember, you're not alone in this.
There's always hope, even when it's hard to see.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into despair. We hope you found it helpful.
And remember, there's always something to look forward to.
The Deep Dive podcast with Bobby and Michelle was created using Notebook LM, an AI application that is modeled on uploaded materials such as text or video. Bobby and Michelle are not humans. They are simulated podcast hosts. Their ideas, opinions, and advice are not representative of the podcast owner, Joefer, the cranky old gay guy. Joefer created the theme music using Suno.com, ProPlan, and his own voice. Deep Dive image created by MS Copilot. I hope you enjoy this unique take on the subject covered.